You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
It is crazy to say this, but we're at the end of 2023. What a year, what a strange year, a challenging year, a great year, a weird economic environment. Lot of positives, a lot of things to be thankful for, a lot of things to be a little bit afraid about. It's a mixed bag this year that we have. The positives for this episode that we do want to focus on is coming off a record FFANY market week in New York, just coming back from that. We want to share a little bit about what we heard, what we saw, and what it means going forward. So Matt and Sandi are on today, who I want to praise for doing about 50 individual meetings over the week with footwear companies. And I'm not exaggerating. I think 50 is the low end. And in terms of touch points, we probably talked to, among all of our staff, several hundred footwear executives at Market Week. And that's extremely important because it provides us the pulse of the industry, what the challenges are, where the opportunities are. And we get it unfiltered. We get to sit down with CEOs and executives and hear behind the curtains what's happening. And then that allows us to look at how we scope things and help the industry, either building programs or reports, or sharing intelligence across companies to strengthen the industry. So Matt and Sandi, as we come off a record historic FFANY, and we know that, we know it in the numbers, we know it in just the feel and hearing from everyone. Let's talk about some of the things that you guys heard. What are some key themes across the meetings that you guys had that are impacting the industry? And then let's talk a little bit about what we also heard in terms of Black Friday sales, holiday outlooks, and then 24. So, Matt, we'll start with you first of all, and then you can bring in Sandi and have the conversation.
Yeah, that sounds great, Andy. I appreciate that openings. What was interesting to me, and I think Sandi agrees, because it's one of those things where as you're bouncing around to those 200 executives and those 50 meetings, you start to hear this narrative that gets momentum. You start to then take that information you've gotten to the next meeting, and then you try to see if you can confirm what you just heard, or if you hear something different. And we had some different things. We had some things that were common themes that were expressed to us. But before we get to any of that and unpack it, Sandi, I think what was really interesting for me is that it finally felt like we were back, like it was back to the future, in the sense that it hadn't been since December 19, where everyone was in town. There was no intrepidation. Everyone was bouncing around. We all had jam-packed schedules, and so that was like super exciting to be a part of. And so out of the gate, I think the takeaway, if you're listening to this and you weren't in town, but you wanted to be, was that we were back, baby. And that's just a fact, right? So I don't know how you felt, Sandi, but that was the vibe that I got as we made our way around the city.
Yeah, I mean, what a week it was. We saw so many brands and retailers that we haven't seen in market in so long, and in such a big way. It was exciting. There were events that were happening and showroom openings, and you would see people on the street that you haven't seen in a long time, and at dinners and at restaurants, and everyone was bustling, and it was an exciting time to be in market. So I was thrilled that it turned out the way that it did. I loved seeing brands that were showcasing everything that they had for fall and winter 2024. We can talk a little bit about the trends in a minute, but the buying teams were out in full force. I noticed that instead of people coming in with 2 or 3 buyers, they were coming in with their entire teams from executive levels, and the whole buying teams for men's, women's, kids. They were coming in big groups like they used to do, back a few years ago. So I heard so many people say that this market was as strong as ever, and they haven't seen a market like this in about 5-7 years. So it was great. It was great to be back in market like that and see everybody together again.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about retail sales that you guys heard from some of the CEOs for Black Friday. Some of the meetings I had, some of it was a little bit mixed. Some people, and I think some of it may be wholesale versus brands too. I think wholesale may have had a little bit of a tougher time, but the brands we heard from did quite well, and the numbers look really good. Maybe Matt, you know, what did you hear? Was it a mixed bag? Was it more positive than negative?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was a mixed bag, but I think it was more positive than negative because I think, and I had put this in what I'm hearing a couple weeks ago, that there was like this light switch that got flipped and then the consumer stopped buying. And I think that was pretty broad based. And so it was a tough September, October. The weather was warmer. You always look at the weather, and it did get cold enough for boot season to kick in. It was an extended summer, right, into the fall. And so you had just a lot of, I think, people that were unsure of how holiday would look. And the beauty of FFANY at the moment we have it is that it's happening as numbers are flowing in. And you can almost envision executives kind of refresh every hour to see what the latest sales numbers that they're getting both online and in store. And so that's one of the positives. We won't share names here to protect everyone's identity and to speak more freely. But, there are the unicorns. There are those brands that are in the marketplace that we heard are doing, 20% over of what they did last year, which is a huge, huge number. And then we had some who have maybe a stable of brands who were saying, you know what, some of them are struggling here, but we had some strength here, but maybe a point or two better than plan. And I can imagine plans are probably pretty conservative. But all that leads into kind of what I think is a natural inclination for the retailers to be optimistic. And that's what fed some of the buzz. But it didn't mean that everyone was buying at full force. I think one of the things that we constantly heard is that the retailers in particular were placing orders which is all good, which is fantastic. But we're kind of maybe doing 70% of what they normally would purchase this time of year, maybe 80% or 75%. With the hopes that they would maybe come back in February in 24 to fill out the rest of their assortment. Because I think there's confidence in the fact that supply chain, I kept hearing this, supply chain's fixed, right? I mean, it's not really fixed, but there's less stuff moving through it. So in that sense, it's fixed. And so if you need to get access to product later in the season, as you get fall product and place an order in February, there's a lot more confidence you can do that. And so the last thing I'll say, Sandy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of these points, was that the inventory issue, although still elevated, inventory starting to continue to come down. We're seeing inventory come down, and so there's a lot less concern about unloading old inventory people are sitting on. So those are there's a lot in there, I think, but those were some of the themes that we heard pretty consistently across the board.
That's right. That's what I heard too. I definitely heard that Black Friday was a mixed bag. I know the reports are coming in saying they were looking good, but that's not what we heard across the board, right? I definitely heard a mixed bag on Black Friday, a little bit better on Cyber Monday. People are looking ahead because as retailers are cautious, consumers are cautious, and they're waiting and they're waiting and waiting for the sale to happen, and they're waiting closer to holiday moment. So we have a couple weeks now, so I think a lot will be kind of unveiled over the next couple of weeks, and I'd like to see what the year end looks like in terms of holiday. I think it's too early to even predict that and see right now. In terms of what's happening for 2024 on the buying front, I think you're right. I think a lot of the retailers were optimistic, but still holding back for sure. And so many of the brands said that people are not buying in full force on their boots, and a lot of people want to sell boots. So that's going to be a wait and see thing too. I think that people will be waiting till February to solidify all that and let their full buys take place in February. In terms of what we saw trending and what people were buying, it was still a lot of lug soles and Chelsea boots. and comfort, comfort, comfort. Everything had to have a zipper or be flexible or have extra padding or be able to, walk around for hours and hours. And a lot of the comfort features were pretty amazing. I thought that the slippers were very strong, not only from UGG, but from a lot of big brands, even some brands that typically don't do a big slipper line. They were coming up with some creative ideas. Some were lined, some were waterproof. I saw a lot of that. A lot of sneakers still, a lot of loafers, something easy to slip on, a lot of slip-ons as we were talking about. I know Michael Greenberg was talking about that a lot at Skechers. But it was a fun market to be in because we got to see some newness, some new colors, some new materials. I thought it was a great market to see what everyone was showcasing, but that was my takeaway from that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this real quick, Sandi, is that after watching your trend outlook with Shannon from Footwear News, we'll post the link here in the description of the episode. You guys were talking about trying to find that equilibrium between total comfort, aka slippers in your basement office during the pandemic, and then the pink stilettos that everyone wanted to wear to get out and about and have a good time and party like it's 20 or 1920, whatever, and finding that middle ground. And so I watched that video heading into Market Week. It's a fantastic video. It's still super relevant. And then it really, when I started to see all those things in the showrooms, one, you and Shannon nailed it, and two, it allowed me to kind of see in real time how the brands are looking to take comfort footwear and still create some a formality to it, if you will, or a dress-up element to it that's not full-bore stiletto, full-bore, out on the town heels kind of thing. And we saw that through and through. And if I had a nickel for every Chelsea boot that I saw, I'd have a lot of nickels. Let me tell you, there were Chelsea boots everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of boots, a lot of buckles, a lot of zippers, a lot of fun things that Shannon and I covered in our conversation. And I do want to point out some of the retailers that were in town. I just like to give a nod to the number of variety of retailers that were there, because yes, we had Saks and Nordstrom, and then we had Ross and Walmart and Sierra, and then we had our independents, of course, with Shoe In and Tip Top showing up at the pop-up and the showrooms. We had Shop Op, Ross, Shoe Carnival, Shoe Show, Finish Line, Foot Locker, Urban, Tilly's, PacSun, you name it. Every single retailer was in town shopping this market. It's one of those, you cannot miss market. I just want to share a little bit about that because I was so excited about the variety of retailers that I saw and some new faces that I saw. A lot of new brands launching, a lot of new brands at the pop-up. Just the excitement was really on a different level this time around.
Awesome. Is the Chelsea boot from Chelsea, New York, or Chelsea, London?
You'd probably trace that back to Chelsea, London, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Just wondering. What was also interesting to me is the amount of foam that's now going into fashion products. Everywhere I look is a nice upper. It might even be leather or some kind of PU, synthetic leather. Kind of upper, but then there's so much foam and padding now in these comfort shoes, these comfort fashion shoes that we see. And we've been talking for forever about, how athletic is taking over, and you see more and more walking or running shoes in the offices. I saw a lot of people in New York wearing suits with running shoes. Maybe they changed them when they got to the office, quite possibly, but still, it's still leaning into that area where we're getting this new innovation kind of overlay, and I don't think it's overkill to keep talking about that too from a fashion perspective, right?
Absolutely not. People wearing sneakers with suits and with gowns and dresses and long skirts. Everyone was wearing these long flowy skirts. Some were pleated and glitter and sequins and all that. And I saw tons of women wearing sneakers all over New York City, and also a big boot too. So you could go either way there. Same thing with the men. Lots of men wearing sneakers with their suits and their, you know, day and night
Yeah.
outfits, I guess.
Yeah. One of the things I want to pivot back to the business side of things because I get a number of people email me even when what I'm hearing goes out and people want to provide feedback and what I'm hearing went out this morning on e-commerce, and I encourage you to check it out. If you don't get that email, please email me at mpriest@fdra.org, and I'll be happy to put you on the distribution list. But I had a brand president send this over to me just recently, saying that basically heading in September and October, things dried up, and they were very curious as to what would happen for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This person says, happily, the consumer came out with great motivation. The brand set 2 online sales records, first on Black Friday, then again on Cyber Monday. For the week, online demand was up a remarkable 50%. Stores enjoyed double-digit comps as well. This person thinks that a lot of the excess was driven by the pin-up demand from the slower September, October. So the consumer is catching their breath. Think about maybe the student loans. People are talking about the recession coming. Interest rates are super high. Mortgages are high. Student loans are kicking back in. And so maybe the consumer's catching their breath. This is me talking now. Going back to the quote, we think that a lot of that excess was driven by pent-up demand from the slower September-October period, and that a lot of the actual holiday season buying is ahead of us. They fully expect a lull this week, which is the week we just had, and with strong inventory levels are expecting a strong finish. So it's interesting to me because we also have an extra week between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. And so there was a lot of conversation, and it's rare that happens. A lot of conversation about we're not going to be able to keep this up. There's going to be a lull. It's going to be a sprint, but we will have kind of a dip at some point. And I think that dip has just happened this past week as we're listening to this on Monday, I think the 11th. And so December 11th. And so I think that's another question is what's the longevity of this move? And then everyone said in New York that it's going to be a super quiet January and February, as Andy, you often point out, that people are paying down their credit card bills and the consumer is starting to contract a bit. So anyway, I just want to provide that feedback from just one brand president that came in.
I think companies need to think about a crossover with a lettuce company or a salad company in the new year, where if you buy a pair of shoes, you get a free chopped salad or sweet green salad to go with it. So lean heavy into my advice, folks. I can't steer you wrong, or maybe a gym membership. Maybe you buy a pair of running shoes and you get a $5 coupon to a Gold's Gym.
There you go.
Something like that.
Even the shoe sustainability logo looks like a salad on a shoe.
Well, I eat my shoes. Yes, they're very biodegradable all the way into my stomach. So, I do think we're waiting for the shoe to drop, right? Pun intended. We have been waiting for the shoe to drop. We know at some point there will be a short recession, simply because of interest rates and higher cost of capital. I mean, it slows things down. It's a natural occurrence. So we know it's going to happen. I think the surprise has just been the fact that people still have money in their pockets. Wages remain robust, somewhat keeping up with inflation across the economy. The job losses have not occurred. Hirings have slowed, but job losses have not occurred. There's not layoffs in this environment, so that's encouraging. But I do think that people are doing that buy now, pay later a lot more than they did in the past. Even on I saw one guy on LinkedIn post about how he did a buy now, pay later for a 6-count nugget delivery from Uber Eats. And the quote was something like, just try to stop me. And so someone else asked, like, what's the 6-month payoff, like 40 cents a month or something like that. So it's so pervasive that you can do that. The concern I have is that, do people really know what their savings are versus what their capital expenditures are when they're spreading it out like that? But even I did it this year. I had a big purchase item, and I was like, you're going to give me 0% for 3 months?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely going to take that. Thank you very much. It didn't even impact me buying or not buying. I was going to buy anyway, but that incentive just, I took that. And so I think that's the challenge too, is like looking at new credit constraints in 2024, where it's not just credit card, but it's these additional financing options that folks have. And they can be attractive. They can be 0%, they can be low interest, etc. But those are things that we'll have to keep looking at. Um, the positive of it though is that it is inventive finance. Our economy continues to find innovative ways to create new product, new ways to finance it, um, market that people need shoes. I guess that even though their closet's full, they still need some kind of new pair, a new thing. Um, and so I think that's the positive of our economy going forward, is it's still going to be very strong. I think 24 will look just fine. And we said it this year, if you're flat in 24 off of a record several years of this new plateau we have in this industry, where before COVID we were looking at maybe under 90 billion,
83 billion, yeah.
3 to 90 billion, somewhere in there. Now we're looking at what, like
105 billion.
yeah. So it's a completely new epic. The challenge is what company is going to save their money from this and keep it and hold it and then reinvest it in the right places for consumer engagement, um, launching new product, etc., to keep going and growing. And I think that's in the future what we're going to see is the companies who smartly optimize and cut costs, but also are able to save their money and astutely place that capital in the right places and for different innovation areas, are going to be real winners with the consumers in the future. So it's something to watch, something we always think about. Um, so what's kind of takeaways for you guys as we kind of wrap up the year from Fanny? I know we got Fanny coming up in February. Maybe we can preview that too. It's a little bit of a smaller market than obviously December is, but it's still important. One thing about trade shows we always see is some of the same people visit the same trade shows and slowly make their minds up and start making purchases in different places. So maybe it's a continuation of those conversations and leaning more into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, and then Sandy, you can close us out. I'll say that that the pop-up that we host, 724 Fifth Avenue and 720 Fifth Avenue, was jam-packed. There was so many people there. There's so many appointments. There was so much spillover of buyers in who are checking out new brands and new product, that we continue to have a lot of interest in that. And I think going forward in 24, even in February, is that we're going to have interest in hosting something similar. And so to me, I think that people are getting back to normal. It's that aspect of getting back to normal. So you got to be in market. You feel like you can't just do it from Zoom anymore. You can't just kind of go back and forth over Zoom over what your new product is. You got to exhibit. And when we acquired Fanny in 2020, October 2020, we committed to, one, make sure it was profitable again, which we've done, largely under the efforts of Sandy. And we committed to ensure we creatively look for ways to provide exhibition opportunities for our members specifically. That's key, for our members, and we've done that. And I think 24 will see an increase in that. But Sandy, I'll let you have the last word as we close out this conversation on Fanny.
Yeah, we were thrilled to see everyone in town, and we invite new brands and new retailers to New York February, June, August, and December, 4 times a year. It's definitely a place that you will get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of seeing showcases with such a wide variety of product, great networking opportunities. The events are pretty amazing. Also, we were a sponsor of the Footwear News Achievement Awards. That was pretty phenomenal as we celebrated a lot of the big winners throughout the year. There were dinners and lots of networking opportunities, lots of educational experiences. So I welcome everyone to visit Fanny. If you need to find out where we are, how to get in touch, you can find us at fanny.org. My contact information is on there. You can see what brands exhibit, how to show up. So we're really excited to see everyone in New York.
Awesome. Well, folks, you just heard a great preview of what's happening real time in the market. both in terms of product, the health of the industry, what we're looking at and heading into 24. We hope that you had a great season. We're still, as we're taping this right now, it's still ongoing, but we hope you have a great season. We hope you have a better holiday season in terms of health for your family. Definitely peace on earth at this point in time when there's so much conflict happening. And honestly, some peace within yourself. Please take some time for yourself to sit down, reflect, calm your mind. I see a lot of angst in our population right now. I see a lot of angst in the world, and I think some of it is simply we're killing ourselves because we're in overdrive, constantly digitally engaged in some way. And hopefully this holiday season you can disconnect yourself a little bit and find some peace of mind, and have a great holiday season with your family. FDRA continues to work during the holidays, so if you have issues or need help or support, please email us at info@fdra.org. Our entire catalog of over, I don't know how many episodes we have now, over 5 years of episodes on Shoe and Show remains there.
7 years, dude. I'm not going to allow you to give a short shrift. 7 years. 401 episodes.
Lucky 7. I always encourage people to go back to those because there's a lot of great information in there in terms of culture and leadership from a lot of different folks across the industry. So, again, thank you for listening to this episode. Next Monday, new episode drops. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends and colleagues, pass this around your office to get a synopsis of a real-time update of what's happening in the market. Again, we continue to serve the industry as best we can. Please stay engaged with us. Please stay active with us. And again, if we can help, please let us know. On behalf of our team, Shoe-In is out.
Shoe-In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.